Hey everyone, and welcome back to the shop. I was working on this hood, and as you can see, I think it turned out really well. I don't know if you remember my previous videos where the whole front end here was collapsed in on it. It was in an accident. I had to use screws to pull the metal back out, re-massage the whole thing, but I think it detailed out really well. And to treat myself, I thought, okay, I finished working on the hood. Let's put in the classic auto air heater box, right? This is a replacement for the original heater box. It's all electronic, it's driven by servos, and in fact, you get everything you see here. I mean, I got everything. There's compressors, there's hoses, you got the heater box and the heater cores, obviously, with the air conditioning condensers. Has a condenser in front of the radiator. It even comes with the lower crank pulley, which drives the additional V-groove so that I can, drive an additional belt to drive the compressor. So it comes with everything you want. It's about $1,300. Prices vary depending on when you buy it and if it's on sale or not. So I thought after working on this hood, I'd give myself a bit of a break, put the box in, make sure it fits and all of that. And I thought I'd record that so I could show you, the installation. I ran into so many issues with that thing that every piece of video that I finally pieced together was over 30 minutes long. And you're not going to sit and want to watch a 30-minute video. So what I'm going to do is I'm reshooting a few of the sections. I'm going to merge some of the old stuff. So it may seem a little choppy and maybe a little discontiguous. But the idea here is that it's to show you the challenges I ran into, how you can look out for them, make decisions on your own as opposed to what the box says to do. So, like I said, everything you're going to need to do, and as far as working on the air conditioning box, so let's get at it. So let's catch up. What have I already done? Well, there's a clip there that has been installed on that tab. That tab's original to the car. That is where the original heater box connected, so there's no magic there. The other thing that I did that's different is I used kill mat to seal the vent. So what I ended up doing during the original attempt is I ended up creating a bracket with a welded bolt, and then I welded the bracket to the cowl. And that way there now, when the heater box is installed, it hangs off this bolt rather than a screw. And then finally, and you can't see it because I've covered it up, is the original hole here. Remember, there were 4 holes around this where the heater box used to go in and bolt from the inside of the firewall. That original hole is where they want the third mounting bracket to go. But if you put that heater box and use the original hole, what ends up happening is the front of the heater box is so high that you're never going to get the back of the heater box to the point where you have the angle so that it can drain. Because remember, this is an air conditioning unit. It will have condensation. There's a drain, and therefore it has to drain, and the only way water runs is downhill. I wanted to show you the key difference between the two boxes, right? Obviously, the one closest to me is the original, and you can see it's all controlled by cables. And of course, then there's the new unit, and the new unit is all electronic, which means it's all they're all servos. The servos control whether or not you get defrost, or whether or not you get heat, or whether or not you get vent. One of the big differences, though, you're going to notice right away is that the original unit would draw its air out of the passenger side hat, right? So we all know with inside of the front of the cowl, you've got the hats in there, and then of course that allows cool air into the system. And of course I love the back in 1960s, you have a little flap door that you open up that allows then that venting to come to the passenger side, and then you got this vent or this flap inside here, which is extremely difficult to move. I can't even move it with the cable, but that would be the way that I could control whether or not I'm getting venting on the passenger side. So like I said, the new unit does not draw air, so they actually want you to plug up the passenger side vent or the hat. And let me show you why I don't want to do that the way they want me to do it. So they want me to take this galvanized plate, which has a bit of a seal on it, and you can see there's 3 holes in there pre-drilled, and they want me to take this and actually put it underneath the vehicle and cover that plate and drive screws into my cowl. So what I decided to do is to block it off simply using my kill mat, which is I tell you, this stuff is fantastic. It's going to seal it up, it's going to keep it dry, and I am not going to be driving screws in there. Now, here again, what they want you to do is to take the bracket, and you can see that there are holes here on the box. This is where they want you to take this, you know, then those holes match up to, you know, the holes that are there, and then that's where it's screwed in. But you can see up in here, they want this, of course this will come up, but they want you to put a screw again into your cowl. That means a screw will penetrate the inside of the cowl and go into where the water is. And I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld on a bracket here, and then that way there, this will then bolt to the bracket. So what I decided to do is I'm just going to take a piece of steel, obviously. I welded a bolt to the plate steel, so this way here I don't have to weld the bolt right to my cowl. It's going to give me a little bit more surface area. I can weld around, a little cooler of a weld, so I don't burn through, obviously. I was a little concerned about too much power. I didn't want to punch through the cowl, so not the greatest welding job I've ever done, but certainly enough that it's definitely going to hold the heater. Okay, lesson learned. I put the bracket on. Now it's loose, right? I was just going to loosely put it and then put this bolt hole up and through the bolt. This will not go in with this bracket on. You can rotate the heck out of this. This will not get past the under bracket here. It won't go in. Save yourself the aggravation. Take the plate off, put it in, put the plate back on. The only thing that's a concern is that down at the bottom you can see the one bolt that has gone through that supports the unit on the other side. But on the other side of that is the drain line. Now the drain line is about an inch to the right of that bolt and about an inch down, which is right where my brake line is. I don't like the idea that that drain line comes straight out into the firewall. I'm going to want to see if I can bend it and bring it out maybe below that line, maybe on that little bit of a ridge there, which means making a 90-degree in the plastic tube. So I'm going to be investigating that in a few minutes. So this is what I was mentioning. This is the bracket that goes up against the firewall. This is using the original hole where the fan mounted in the lower right corner, because as you can see, this is where this all protrudes out through the firewall. This bracket, if I put it in the hole that it tells me to put it in, really lifts this up, which means when I try to level the unit won't level because this is just so high. So I'm going to re-drill this hole not only about a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch lower through the firewall. Here's the other challenge. This is the drain. Now the drain, as you can see, comes straight out, and it's only about a ½ inch away from the firewall. Because remember, this is the firewall here. So that's only about a ½ inch away from the firewall. Now, so that means I'm going to have to drill a hole straight out the firewall, which puts it in the engine bay, and it looks like crap. So what I want to do is actually get it into the little ridge that's on the bottom, and I'll show you a picture right here. But you can see there's a ridge below the hole that allows me to put that through. So now what I want to do is I want to take this, and because I want to make a 90 to come down so it goes out the bottom, I'm going to shorten this up. I'm going to just take off one nipple, right? You can see it's got 3 here, and the hose goes all the way on. So if I lose one, no big deal. But that'll give me a little bit of an extra distance so I can then use my heat gun, and I'm going to melt the tube in order to reform it so it goes straight down. Okay, I think mission accomplished. So what we've done is we just entered a nice bend into it. By heating it now, I was able to stretch the top, which allows us to bend down. So we're now bent down. This should now clear the firewall and just go in that little crease I'm going to show you in a few seconds in the car. But now the original hole that was supposed to be drilled was here for the drain. Now what I did is of course I mounted it, I pulled the box out again, probably about the 6th time the box has been in and out. But what I did is once I had it in just the last time, I now marked a line down the firewall to this flatter surface here. So by coming in here and drilling down, I'm going to do 2 things. Of course, I'm going to avoid my brake line, but at the same time, that rubber tube is going to be down away from sight. There's my tube. I mean, maybe it wasn't worth all of that effort. I mean, it would have popped out probably below the heater line. But at least now it's kind of on an angle and I can trim it. Don't trim it yet because you're going to probably pull the heater box out 5 more times. having that extra line makes it easier to feed through the hole while you're putting the unit in, and then only once you're done, cut that line. But here's the cover plate. And the way the cover plate works is that obviously it just, goes through and pops and covers everything. But what I'm going to do, and something I don't like right now off the top, and excuse me while I move here, but as you can see, this seems to be contacting here. There's contact because this is rolled in. You see how this flange is rolled in? And I guess was assuming that wouldn't leave a sharp edge, but I need to actually relieve this a bit. I don't like the fact that it's up against it. Now, there's insulation and everything in the way, but you know what? The last thing you want is that this eventually wears through the insulation and cuts that pipe. So basically, here's the problem. So there is the bracket that we mount to. So if we take a straight edge and pretend that's the firewall and run that parallel, you can see that this over here is going to hit the firewall. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. So I relieved that one area, hopefully to that this part doesn't hit the firewall. But now I'm going to do maybe one of two things. Because this is where it is, I might build some way to extend this, maybe about a ½ an inch. And then the same thing over here. This is giving me the ability to move the unit back and forth slightly from the wall. I'm going to elongate this to allow me to bring the heater box away from the firewall. So the instructions say that before you do a permanent install. And again, I'm not permanently installing it, as you saw already. I've got a lot of fitment things I'm still working on, and I've got that ½ inch spacer I showed, or the ¼ inch spacer, so it should fit properly now. But they recommend that you do a break-in or a test of the system first. So what do? You do a bench test. So it has a controller. The controller has a number of cables coming out of it, and those cables go to everything. It goes to the defroster motor over here. It goes to the servos that control the venting. It goes to the water heater control, so this unit actually opens and closes when it calls for hot water. It also, of course, goes to a relay. This relay runs the compressor, so that when you call for air conditioning, this relay clicks and, of course, sends 12 volts to the compressor, locks the clutch up, and then the compressor kicks in. And then, of course, then you have the goes to the fan motor. Now, the way they want you to do the bench test is that it comes with I guess it's a diagnostic chip or a key, but the idea is that this is a way for you to program the unit to, calibrate it correctly. So let's go do that. Okay, so I've inserted that key into the control unit. I've turned it this way so you can actually see the little LED that they have on it. What will happen is as I'm calibrating, the LED will flash, letting me know that it's successfully calibrated. I've got it hooked up to a 12-volt battery. They recommend a battery, not a battery charger or anything. They want full voltage, obviously. As you can see, what I've done is I've preliminarily set the way the instructions say that they want it on air conditioning or cold. They want the fan off, and that they want this to be in the heater mode, so down to the bottom, right? So this is where your feet are. So again, that's the heater mode. So first thing they say to do is power it up, and we should see that light flash. So there, the light flashed on and off, so it's started that, so now it's on the fan, so the fan is running. The next thing it wants me to do is move the knob to the dash in one motion. So I'm going to take the dash and move it up in one motion. So now I've moved it up, and we should see then therefore the light flash there, and now it's on again. And then it asks us to move the temperature to the hot. So I'm going to move the temperature down to the hot, and again we watch down here and we see that it flashes. So again, we've got a solid indication that we are now down into the heat. And then it simply says at this point in time is to power it off, and the calibration is done. Okay, so I moved the camera so you can see here. What I did is I put some streamers on just to show you which vents are actually blowing, and that hopefully will help you understand how this system's going to work. Also, I have in my hand is the valve that controls the hot water entering the vehicle. So if I turn this on to low fan, it's on heat, and of course I have it on the floor. So you can see the floor here is moving, the vent isn't, or sorry, the defroster is not moving, and the vents are not moving. So this is just purely to the feet. Then I slowly move it up about halfway, and now you noticed the defroster and the heat. So I was wrong when I originally said that you can't have defrost and heat at the same time. What they've done is that as you move it down to floor, it is just the floor, so this of course stopped blowing again. As I move it up slowly, I get both the floor and the defroster. As I continue to move it up, I get nothing but defroster, but you can see a little bit of vent is starting to move. And then of course, as I go all the way up, the defroster stops. There, the defroster just fell, and now the vent is moving. So this would be pure air conditioning. Now of course, that is just the vents. I don't know if you can see inside, there you go. You can see that that's a hole. As soon as I start to close this and call for air conditioning, you can see that starting to close. You see we're starting to lose it, and it's gone. So there it's open, and there it's closed. So what's happening is as I'm moving up for air conditioning, the hot water valve shuts down to stop hot water from entering the can. So final fitment, and then of course I'll put it away until the car is ready to be assembled. But as you can see now, what I've done is I've cut some clearance away on this side, and I've just rolled some of the Dynamat around the shiny edge just to protect the edge. Obviously we don't want any sharp edges here, so I just rolled some of that Dynamat around it so there's no sharpness. But I put that washer in the bottom to move the box back. I also I elongated the slot on the top, which allowed me to move the box back. So the box now is about a ½ inch back into the cab. Now I've got to check for fitness on the glove box and all of that, but I certainly didn't want this rubbing down here, so now it is not. So now I have clearance, this is all bolted in, it's centered. Let's put the cap on and see what it looks like. Well, so basically there it is. So that's just the cover plate. Obviously the cover plate can be moved just slightly, right? But there it goes. So covers in. Like I said, there's the original hole, there's the new hole I made. This is now centered. The cover plate covers everything, so I'm good with that. And inside, let's take a look at the water level. So as I said, the car is level. So now there we go. There's the bolt I had put through the, welded onto the cowl. I didn't want to throw a screw through the cowl. Of course, there's the other mounting bracket over on the other side. And if we take a look at the bottom of the unit now, and if we take our level, so it is fairly level as far as the box is concerned. In fact, I've got it dipping a little bit down. It's a little high on the right-hand side, but the drain is on the left, so I wanted it to be a bit of an angle like that. And then if we take a look front to back, we can see on the front to back, we are absolutely, tilted down, but that's what we want. We want this thing tilted down so that we get the drainage out my little drain tube. So, like I said, hopefully you enjoyed the video. As I mentioned, it's not a definitive video on how to install this kit. But as I said, the things to watch out for is that the unit has to be level, the unit has to lean towards the front of the vehicle. And in order to do that, I did need to relocate that hole, which dropped the front of the unit. I also had to move the unit back a ½ inch, because what was happening is that it was rubbing up against the air conditioning lines coming through the hole. So, that's not acceptable. So again, I elongated the lines, I put a spacer in, and like I said, that really then put the box exactly where I wanted it. So, like I said, until next time, thank you all for watching, and should be the seats I'll be doing next. Thank you.